Yeah, enough. Hopefully. So, what I don't know is how to get my computer advance from one slide to the next. For God's sake.
You should have bought you should have bought.
For the expert novice, what is photogrammetry? In simplistic terms, what photogrammetry is, it's taking a set of 2D images and turning that into a 3D image or model. And do that with some specialist software. The gold standard for this work, certainly in the diving world, is a program called Agisoft Metashape, and I'm going to do a quick demo of that at the end of the presentation. Photogrammetry is quite an exciting concept because what it's proven to be is a really good tool to for maritime archaeologists to monitor and understand wreck sites and to record and understand objects, and it's being used in both those ways. Actually, it's also being used outside of maritime archaeology to do things like map reefs. So turn 2D pictures of a reef into a 3D model of a reef. So I've seen some of that. It looks, sounds complicated, but the good news is that actually it's not that hard. And if I can do it, I can you. So, the other bit of news here is you don't need a fancy camera to do this.
Whoa.
Okay, you don't need to spend thousands of pounds. Sorry, dollars. And I just called it pounds. I'm so sorry. I'll go back to the UK next week.
You don't need a really flash camera, isn't it?
No.
Because
It cost me because I had to go and buy a GoPro. So just a little GoPro. What you do need is you get a camera that's got some resolution, right? So 5 megapixels for okay results. The more definition you have, the better result you'll get from your photogrammetry. So 12 pixel camera is really good. You want to be shooting wide angle because you want to be capturing sections of wrecks, as an example. But fisheye is no good because what you want is a clean, undistorted image. So you don't want anything that's going to manipulate and bend or anything like that. You're trying to get a true aspect on whatever you're trying to create an image of. You don't need flash, which is a bit it's a bit strange. You could use lighting. I would say consider lighting very, very carefully, because what you don't want here is you don't want backscatter. Okay, you want a clean image. So actually what I found is it works better, even in very, very bad viz, to have no lights. Okay, generally the GoPros are good enough to give you an image. Trust me, you do not need a super quality image to get a good result with your photogrammetry. And you'll see some of the images that I'm using a bit later on. They're not great. You don't want to be playing with your camera underwater. Think consistency. So I want consistency in my shots. Yeah. So I don't want to be adjusting lighting I don't want to be adjusting white balance or any of those things. It's like set your camera before you go in and then leave it alone. So simple. And then to make this something that you don't even have to think about, you set your GoPro up into continuous shooting mode. You want lots and lots of images. The more images you've got, the better result you will get. So with a GoPro, you can set it to take shots a second. You start it going when you hit the rec, and then you keep going until you finish your dive. So very, very simple. If you set your camera up prior to your dive and then go and execute your dive to a plan.
You had multiple images of the same spot, then, like these.
I'll talk a little bit about that. That actually, you need that. Also, you can shoot video. So if you have the ability to take stills from a video, you can shoot video instead of take multiple shots. But my experience, you get a better result with the continuous shooting mode than you will with the video mode.
Oh, why?
Don't know. That's just what I'm saying. I'm not an expert. It's just my
I
experience.
suspect the resolution because taking a picture, you can get a higher definition.
I would argue that because if you have a modern GoPro with 4K shooting,
Yeah.
that's pretty much.
But if you can do a 4K shoot, for argument's sake, as long as you do a 4K image, then you'd be the same. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But some cameras can't do the video at 4K. They can do a picture at 4K.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to talk GoPro because that's what I'm using. Let's say simple works best. Okay. Simple settings. Let it go. You really don't need great quality on your pictures. You just need lots and lots of pictures. Okay. What you've got to avoid is things like backscatter. You just don't want that. And I'll explain a little bit more.
There's a filter at your buddy when he swims between you and your.
Yeah, you don't want that anyway. We'll talk about that. Someone in the room knows all about that. So I screamed at them underwater to get out of my way. So let's talk a little bit about how you execute a photo shoot. So so I call it an object, but basically let's think about recs, right? So what you want to do is to choose a distance from the wreck. And obviously, if the visibility is fantastic and it's nice and light, you can be further away. If the visibility is pretty appalling and the light's not bad, not great, you want to be closer. But the important thing here is you need to be consistent. Okay, so once you've set your distance from your subject, maintain your distance. I found that 1 to 2 meters is probably the best bet. So you've got to think about rain. So if I'm on a slope, I want to be diving a slope. If I've got up and down, I want to be maintaining my up and down and thinking about my distance. So this is about getting lots of images and what the camera, what the software is going to try and do. It's going to try and match points on multiple images. Okay, so to create a point, it needs to have that point in at least 3 pictures. So let's go back to backscatter, right? If you've got backscatter, then you've got a real risk here that it's going to pick up that spatter in similar sort of space. And so I've got a real point here and you'll get absolute gobbledygook on your image. So you've really got to avoid the backscatter. So for a flat-ish subject, and quite often shipwrecks can be fairly flat, particularly wooden ones, you do something that's called mowing the lawn. basically. So you swim transits, and what you're trying to do is to get overlap in your photos. So you want a 60 to 70% photo overlap, which is why a nice slow swim with 2 pictures a second gives you lots of overlap. If you go too fast, you're going to get a bad result. If you go too slow, you get lots and lots of pictures, but obviously it's going to take you a long time. And the more pictures you got, the more processing time you need as well. So 60 to 70% photo overlap. If you set the camera at that 2 shots a second, you don't really need to think about it. Just swim at a nice, even, slow, considered pace. But think about your trends. It doesn't have to be nice, neat, straight lines, but you do have to cover the whole wreck. So you've got to think about a way of how do I make sure that I cover completely what I'm trying to create an image of. And I'll show you some holes where I haven't done that properly later on. So if you're going to do going along in lanes, you've got 60 to 70% photo overlap, and then you're aiming for a 40 to 50% adjacent lane overlap. So you can see I'm creating here lots and lots of overlap in the photos that I'm taking. So not always as convenient as things being flat. So think about a wreck bow that's raised off the seabed. You can get a flat image, but you want the sides as well for a 3D image. So there's a different technique. Okay, so for anything with elevation, you use a circular motion, and basically you spiral up, or from the top down, or from the bottom up, whichever way you want to do it.
For each
You
medical
spiral.
component.
Yeah. And the reality is that most of your subjects are going to have some low elevation and some high elevation. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to combine both techniques. You do not need to fix up one camera. So if you think about a large wreck, hurricane's a good example, most people will have died that. For you to cover the entirety of the hurricane with one camera just isn't going to happen. You'd have to do it in several dives, right? But if you've got a group of friends and you plan it correctly, in terms of and it doesn't have to be this size stop position here. I can divide the wreck up into 4 sections, and I can use 4 different people, and they can cover their own section in detail. You can then bring all of those images together, and we can create one model of the wreck. Okay.
So the software is actually able then, if you do like a flat scan downwards, and then you have a structure, you then spiral around it in one go, keep it in the same set of images.
Yeah. So I have no idea how the software does it, but basically, when the software takes it, what it's able to do is it's able to pick up the orientation that you had the camera at for the image, and basically you can actually produce from this kind of image map that will show you the angle of each of the images that it's looking at. I have no bloody idea how it does it. Right? It sounds fantastic, but it does. It does. It's just so.
So when you say the angle, even the angle of the camera,
So I've got the camera onto the product against each of the points. So it's really not that complicated. Is the method is what I'm trying to get across as a message here. And actually, why I'm keen to put it out here is if you've got like-minded people who have GoPros and you want a project, is 3-4 people on one of our larger wrecks, and we could get the grade through the image. Yeah, with one person, it's more difficult. But yeah,
Good challenge project to do.
So in the software itself then can pick up and match where one person stops, the other person starts.
doesn't need to do that. Just takes a set of images.
As long, I think as long as the different people's images have some kind of overlap.
It's got to have
And then the software might figure it out.
A few other tips. Avoid bright days in shallow water, because if you've got that light refraction and you get that in your images, it's going to throw it out. Watch the positioning of any lights. I did a whole set of images, like 5,000 images, with one of my focus lights slightly in the GoPro, and I had to get a separate piece of software to snip 5,000 GoPro images. With divers and fish out of the shot.
So no.
Okay. And the fish are candle. If you're talking to people, you know, you've got to have that polite conversation to say, look, this is what I'm doing. Please don't swim between me and the wreck. You know, most of these sites are big enough, aren't they, James? And then if you're serious about this and you want to use this in maritime archaeological field, then it's important that there's a measure somewhere in the model. If you have a measure, what you're able to do then, you're able to scale things, measure things. It gives so much more information. You only need that in one spot. I'm going to make a question here. The first time I did this, and gave me the measure, and said I need this to be in the shot, and I thought he needs it in the shot, and I kept picking it up and moving it, and I took a whole load of shots with the and the model was an absolute mess. So that's a learning experience. Right, so I was now. I'm pretty much through it, but I was going to show you a little bit of the software. It has a very basic work. Okay, so you import the photos into it, and you do need thousands. Yeah, so the more pictures you've got, the better the model will be. It then aligns the photos, and it creates what's called tie points. So you get what's called a point cloud. So it looks like a dot model. These are all the matched locations that I've found. You go through cleansing. I'll show you a little bit about that. And you then go on to stage 3, which is to build a dense point cloud. So it's going to take a high level few dots. It's still lots of dots, and it's going to take a whole load of more detail and put a lot more dots in. So you get this kind of enhanced point cloud. And then what you do is you then build a model. What the model does is meshes the points together and starts to give you the structure. And then the final stage, if you want to do it, you can add texture. So the program will add in texture and color to your model. So it's a workflow process, basically. You need processing power to do this. Okay, let me tell you about my experience. I've got old Macs. To create a dense point cloud on a relatively small piece of wreck. So let's take the stern of the Hurricane, so you know the bit that stands up. I did that section to process that on my computer as about 7 days worth of running. So it'll run in the background. But what I'm saying is, if you've got a nice high spec gaming, you're going to do it much quicker. If you're using 15-year-old Macs like I am, it takes a long time. Yeah, but I can do it. One of the other important lessons that I've learned, and why it's got the exclamation marks over, is at each stage of your processing, save your work. So I days into creating a model, and then we had a power cut, and I lost the whole lot, and I had to start again. So I was pleased, to be honest with you.
You should get a UPS for that.
So. Just do it in cloud. Just do it in cloud.
Ah, yeah, and paid up.
Well, they've got the big thing out.
That's true.
Right, I'm gonna show you a few things in the actual software. If I
Ian, I've
can.
heard that there are solid state computers that is.
Solid state.
It may well be dead.
We need
I'm-
a dedicated processing seconds. I
Um,
would love to throw this in my laptop.
I'd love you to try on yours as well.
Have you had a chance to get a hand on a later Mac with an M3 chip, for example? They must go like a rocket.
No. Why have I lost the share screen bit?
You and stop sharing.
Yeah, I want to share again, Lauren. It's share. Thank you.
Has it got video on?
No.
Yeah.
Is it open? Not help for open the bloody thing. Right. Okay, so this is the
Is this open source or is it?
this is Agisoft. You've got to pay for
You got
this.
to pay for it?
Yeah,
License.
It's not cheap.
Couple hundred
Yeah,
thousand.
yeah, a couple of.
Is it like a one-time payment or is it a subscription?
One time.
Okay, so that's good.
Let me show you. So I'm going to go all the way back to the first piece that we did. So this is the photo alignment. So this is your point cloud without it being dense and high definition. So what you're looking at here is a set of aircraft wings. This is the Volti Vengeance off of Williamstown. Okay, so you can see down below, you can see the quality of the pictures that went into this, right? So they're not high quality images at all. Okay, there's just lots of them. So so this looks a bit scrappy. What we have to do at each stage is we have to do some tidying up, because the software is picking these points, and some of it will be higher confidence versus lower confidence. And then when you start to look at it, some of it is quite obviously random points that shouldn't be there. So if you look at this little group here, or if you can see it right here, there's a single point. So it's picked a match here, but it's clearly nothing to do with this piece of wreckage. Okay, so what we do is we go through a 3-stage process of getting rid of, or it's actually a 4-stage process of getting rid of the stuff that we don't need. So actually we can go model, gradual selection, and this is where we start to select points in this model based on various factors. So there's a drop-down box here, and the first one I'm going to do is something called reconstruction uncertainty. Okay, and then I've got a slider here. As I slide this across, you're going to see that things are going to start to highlight. So you see the pink dots coming?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little bit trial and error, right? What I'm trying to do here is to get rid of noise without going all the way to the other side and getting rid of all the points. Okay, so I'm going to kind of find something where I think it's picking up a bit of the erroneous points without doing too much damage. Yeah. So kind of happy with that. And then I can go over here and sorry, I'm going to edit and I can delete those points. Bang, gone. Yeah. Now, what I can also do is, because I can still see that I've got quite a lot of noise here, and it's very much 3D. So sometimes you'll even have points underneath, right? So what I can do with those is I can go tools, a photo, and I can do a selection. There's various ones. I tend to use the rectangular selection. And what I can do is I can go in now and I can select, he says, why is it not working? So, rectangular selection. This meeting is being recorded. Okay. Right.
Can you remove the X, Y, Z box?
I actually don't know why I'm not able to select these. I don't know whether it's something to do with the fact that I'm sharing it, or it could actually, it's gone back to navigation. That probably isn't helping. There we go. Okay, and then same process. Edit, delete selection. So it takes a bit of spinning it around, selecting, getting rid of. Okay, I don't have to be perfect here. I'm just getting rid of chaff, basically. So that's first stage. I'm going to go back. I'm going to save now.
All the stuff, all those dots on the left-hand side, as I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
That's all noise, presumably.
Yeah, I'll be going to these outliers. I'll be leaving that tail on because that's part of the base. Now I could take those out. Then when I finally produce a model, is I'm just going to have a flat piece of nothing. If I leave those points in, I'll have a bit of terrain there. At that extent, outside the actual piece of wreckage, it really doesn't matter. It's an aesthetics thing. Probably going to look better to leave it, but you know, it's one of those things where you just play with it. So tidy, spin it, delete, spin it, delete, spin it, delete. When I'm happy, save it, and then I'm going to move on, and I'm going to do the next piece, which is again, I'm going to go model, gradual selection, and this time I'm going to select the reprojection error. Okay, and similar sort of process. What I'm going to do with this is a number of pixels that are being covered, and I'm going to slide this across, and you can see again starting to pick up outliers. Yeah, and somewhere around half a pixel seems to work quite well. So happy with that. Okay, back into my edit, delete selection. And again, I've tidied it another stage. Yeah. And then the last one, again, back to model, gradual selection, and I'm going to do projection accuracy down the bottom. And again, here, start to slide that across, and you can see again, it's starting to pick up the outliers. Yeah. And when I'm happy, okay. Edit, delete the selection, and they've now got it. It's a process, right? And I can do this tweaking around the edges at each stage. It's better to do it in the first stage, give it a good bit of spin, delete, lots of manual selection, get it to a point where you're comfortable. Certainly don't want to hear these kind of things outlying here to be left in there. A little bit of noise around the actual model here. Yeah.
So what do you think is the minimum required visibility distance for having dots?
So we tried to do the fairy fireflies of the Frankston. 2 weekends ago. I think the viz, I would call the viz at maybe less than a metre.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even bother.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we did the Vaulting Vengeance, John, you were there.
Yeah.
What was it, 2 metre viz maybe?
2 and 5 in that range.
Yeah, somewhere between 2 and 5.
That's good.
Yeah, for up there, probably
Because
right.
it's like the lower the base, you already do trees, remove edges.
The reason I reckon I still could have got something on the Fireflies, the reason that I didn't proceed was because I didn't have enough visibility of the wreck to actually get straight in my head what transits I would swim. Right, so I could see the wreck, I could have taken off a small piece of it and got a model, but to actually swim effective transits, need to be going over it and off it and back onto it and maintaining my lines and distances. It just wasn't practical in that viz. And the 2 guys I was diving with, to be honest with you, landed straight on the bottom, put a load of silt into the area. You know, so choose your buddies. Or go them somewhere else. It's a photo element. If you've got any photo, it doesn't align, just delete them, get rid of them. Yeah, because you're probably going to get a 90% hit rate. Just delete the others, get rid of them, and then delete all. And then you can go on, save your work, and now you go on to your second stage, which is to convert my point cloud into a dense point cloud. So have another look at this. Let me just okay. So now have a look at this and just sort of think about dot density. Okay, you can see the wing clearly, right? The shape's coming out. So let me then bring in the dense point cloud. Okay, so here's the dense point cloud. So you probably going to say, don't know, that's different. Ian.
It doesn't know what that
Look at the detail though. Look at the detail now. Detail's trying to take it out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but also look, I've still got lots of noise, right? So I can go through and do that cleanup process again. The reason I've got noise on this is when I created this model, I didn't know about this. I didn't know about this tidy up piece. Okay, so my end model was not tidied. Okay, so I've got my dense cloud, exactly the same workflow, go through, trim. You've got a lot less to trim this time because you did a lot of it in the first time, but get rid of all the noise, save it, and then you move on to your next, which is to build a model. And now we're going to see something pretty different. No, we're not. Why are we not doing it?
block unit. All right. I'll push it. Yes.
Right, excuse me. I'm going to show you a different model. Don't know what I did there. I might have 2 point clouds. So let me show you a different one. Okay, so let me show you another model. this might be too big for this laptop. Can't open the file, let's try the directory, that's not good. Right, bear with me.
Check out all the old ones, you know.
Yeah, it could just be that these are too big, actually, could be the problem. Because this all worked fine on my Mac at home.
Is it output a PDF or final version in or something like
It
that?
will require 0.2 gig additional RAM for rendering. Do you want to show it anyway? Yes. Come on.
Is that steam coming out the back of the computer?
Yeah, okay, now I've got it for the wings. Okay, so you can see this is right, yeah, good. Okay, no. Now, so you see now my points have gone and I've got a meshed model. You can see that this had a little bit of elevation. So you can see that I can actually, I think, oops, I'm never good in 360 degrees. But you can see here that I can clearly see now how it comes up off the seabed.
Yeah.
I can see
Even the detail in the seabed itself, like the pockets in the sand.
yeah. Okay, so this is the first one ever. It's a very simple model. Yeah. And that was from, it's about 3,500 pictures for a set of wings.
But it takes out all the growth, because that wreck's covered in all sorts of spongy, crappy growth.
No, it's kind of on there. They'll come out. I was to go one more stage, which is to add the texture and colouring.
Yep.
You might see a little bit more spongy stuff, but I choose not to do that. I kind of like it at this stage. If it'll open, let me just show you one where I put texture on, I think. I think I did it on the Hurricane.
Yeah.
No. This is the smallest model I've got.
Yeah.
I think the other models are just too big for this laptop.
Okay.
I think that's part of the problem. Okay, it gives you a bit of a flow. What I want to do just finally is to go back to my Prezzo. And share. Right, back to my presentation because I want to show you what's possible here. So I'm sure Heritage Victoria will not mind me showing you these. I might have to stop the share and just show you the web page, sorry. Um, Okay. So this is some stuff that Heritage Victoria have done. So
Have you tried anything out of the water?
no, they're having trouble trying to do stuff in the water.
Now, what if the water is treated compared to in?
Why is that?
Because if you look at the base, for example, what you could do is you have a stationary camera. Sorry, you can put the base on the stationary plot and rotate the camera around it. You cannot rotate the. No, because of the lights. If you have one stationary light source, you will always have the moving reflection.
I get
It's
it.
like the same as having an object that moves.
Yeah,
So you always need to have a fixed object and rotate the camera around it. And the other thing is you don't have backscatter, nothing. So you have literally super sharp edges. That's why in the water is super hard. Because we lose sharpness. And that's the sharpness.
Ian, I know yours would look like that. I understand now why you need new friends.
It's done actually. I don't know why these aren't coming up.
You're in the presentation, that's why. You do it when you get home and you'll be fine.
Right. So I've got stock here.
And all go back.
No, he's knocking around.
No, in front of people. Oh, I don't know.
The computer's got stage fright.
I don't know if I might have lost my internet connection. It's nothing. Nothing. I'm at a very, very early stage of what I'm doing, but actually I'm quite pleased with what I'm getting. So far we've done, and we, Smart Ryan and I, we've done the Volti Vengeance. We've done 2 sections out of 3. We haven't done the engine yet, so we've got to go back and do the engine. I did the stern section, bow section of the Hurricane. So just a small confined piece. But the reason I did that is because it has elevation. And then in Sri Lanka, we dived an underwater statue park, and there was a statue that had 4, 5 guys with a cannon and cannonballs, and we made a really nice 3D image of that statue. We had lofty ambitions. So we would like to do the ships in the ship's graveyard. But obviously going from something small scale to something larger scale, what we need is more grunt. So we need more people with GoPros to come and get involved in this.
And a gaming computer.
And a gaming, and someone with a gaming computer would really help.
There's a company called BAST.AI.
Yeah.
You can rent GPUs from.
Right.
You can run your application in cloud and leverage the GPU technology.
Yeah, I might talk to you about that.
It's like 30 cents an hour.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
Yeah.
so when you get more people, you're going to need more compute because you get more images.
Exactly.
But then don't go and try and buy an M3 chip.
I would suggest hooking into the maritime archaeology because they should have a cloud.
So we're working with Andrew Viduka at Heritage in Canberra. He has cloud. I mean, we haven't explored it, but we could go that way. I suppose it's a little bit if you want. You kind of want it. You want control over it.
No, because all it is the cloud. Like you still put your application into that computer per se, and you rent the CPU and memory.
Or CPUs.
Yeah, GPUs in your case.
where do we go with this then? So look,
Pretty
the offer from me is that if anybody is keen to have a go at getting involved in this, then we can find a suitable practice target. So there are some really small little wrecks that we could do. There's bits of wreckage that we could do. We could take the boats back to the Multi-Vengeance. So there's all sorts of things that we could do as a training exercise. So all you need to get involved is a GoPro and the ability to get onto the site. It doesn't matter how many people we've got doing it, as long as we can stay out of each other's way or dive in waves. But we can take all those pictures. More pictures only makes the thing better. And I can then run a session. Probably it will need to be either in the cloud, and then I can run the session about each of the sort of processing stages. But I can take you through the process. So what little learning I have, I'm prepared to share to get more people involved in this.
Question, do all the photos have to be taken on the same day, or can you go out multiple times? So,
As long as it's the same subject.
yeah, they can be shared.
Yeah.
You don't have to be on the same record, the same.
Yes.
Now, there's a question on the chat from Jack Grimm. He said, which Mac do you use at home?
About 15 years ago.
Jack's got an M1 MacBook Air and asks whether that.
How old is it? How old is it?
Did you catch that, Jack? How old's your MacBook Air?
So the new computer, the more it's going to be able to deal with this sort of thing. If you're running old computers like I am,
How do you think it would go if we did a group swim over with the crab migration? Like 10 divers, 20 divers.
Yeah, the show might be. But then you've only got the,
yeah, I reckon they do a fantastic side. You can add along, so size wide. Yeah, you know, you could have a couple of people do, you know, pull other than yeah, look, shipwrecks come out better. You can do roofs, but I mean, shipwrecks are better, right?
So
But there's, you know, there's little things like there's the Barbara, the Adria, the Rye, you know, they're shallows, which means you can spend as much time as you want on them. You know, we could do small wrecks like that. We could do, you could do, you have to do whole wrecks either, right? You know, actually something like the boilers on the Coogee would be really good, or the conning tower on the J, you know, the conning tower one of the shows. I suggested it to Mark Ryan while we were in Sri Lanka, and I think he was all ready to throw me off the boat.
One thing, in the last job I was in the Army, the water, I used to do a lot of 3D scanning. Everything he said is pretty much underwater the same as above. But when we were doing that, we were using all state-of-the-art stuff for scanning exterior body parts and the interior body parts of the car. And then somebody came up and said, have a look at this app on my iPhone. And you can get them on your iPhone. And you can literally just go around and it'll do a various, not to the size you want, but if somebody was wanting to try and have an iPhone underwater and had something that was not moving, you could just go around it and you'd get a reason.
I'm not a fan of anything on land just because there's a there's a I guess that scan of me. Pull it in and underwater, anything that's beer under there anyway.
Yeah.
With our underwater casing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can do like, get a little something
Oh.
that's moving, you can literally just
Yeah.
move around and actually get it, they're pretty interesting what they can do.
Let me just see if I can share this. I've just found something else I had open. This is quite neat.
Yeah. You can do Port Jackson.
Yeah.
Right,
You do that.
no, I'm gonna remove this. This is, oh, yeah, I can. This is the, all right.
In New Zealand.
Now, this is not particularly good.
Yeah, can you expand it? If you go down to the bottom, that, yep, hit it. Full screen.
Side scan.
Oh, I'm in full screen on my screen.
Zoomed in.
Amazing, mate.
Oh, okay, don't worry about it.
Why it's not good, you'll see that there's some areas where they missed the scan. So you see kind of blanked out pieces, flat pieces. Yeah. Because they haven't got points in that. So when it's
Okay.
meshed, it's just full. So models that we've created so far have got like maybe one or two little spots of that. Ours are much less problematic than this of the Rhino Warrior, but this is a bigger bloody target, obviously. But you can see that they missed the whole they missed the whole section here. Yeah, but you can see what the possibilities of this are. And if you Google, you know, when this gets done right, the detail is absolutely bloody unbelievable. You know, you can get all the detail. So if three-dimensional, if someone gets the pictures from inside here, you can add detail right through into these. They're just superb. When it's done well, this one, not so great, but it's a big target, right? A big target. But you can see what it makes me excited. This is a whole. But if you've been taking underwater photo pictures as long as I have, honestly, you get bored, right? Very rarely see a picture or a subject that I haven't taken many times before. This has just given me a completely new avenue to focus photography on with a cheap GoPro, and I don't need any lights, right? So if you want to start something, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Once you've got the software or you've got access to the software.
Is anyone prepared to sink their boat? So.
Absolutely.
Andrew, you're still out there? No, I'm not doing that.
So is there actually work on that to kind of have proper 3D models of the original ships and overlay them with what is left in the water?
It's a great question.
I mean, first we need to 3D models of the big boats, ships.
Yeah, well, there's quite a lot of 3D like scale models and stuff built, and there's plans, so they could be built. But I think from an archaeological perspective, I mean, you can see that if you're having trouble identifying it, putting a measurement in and being able to take precise measurements is a great way to help you narrow down identification on a shipwreck. But really, probably the biggest thing here is the Heritage Department now really is about trying to preserve things in situ. And to do that, you need to know how something is surviving or deteriorating. So actually, the GERT program that Paducah is trying to push is getting people, citizen scientists, to do a very basic training program, and it literally, I think he runs it in 2 days. I did it online. It's going to give you the very basics of underwater archaeology, set you up, and then the idea is that you adopt a wreck, right? And then on an annual basis, you go and you resurvey the wreck. Now, if you can do photogrammetry and compare year 1 to year 2 photogrammetry, what we can see, or experts can see, is how is the wreck corroding, bits of falling, is it something that requires urgent attention, or, is it holding up pretty well? It answers all those questions. I've adopted the Faulkner. It's a big mistake. I adopted a wreck that's at 47 metres, and I've tried to get on it so many times, and we struggle to get the graveyard ice up and running. But there's so many shallow wrecks that we do get on all the time. And, I think how many times across the year I died the hurricane, right? Well, to go there 2 or 3 times a year and do photogrammetry on it, it'd be easy. I should have adopted something like that.
Yeah.
I can do, but I'm not saying something.
So a lot of the wrecks in your truck, just got photogrammetry.
Yeah, there's some great stuff happening there.
So they're really active. So.
Ian, while you've got the floor, do you want to cover off on travel and merch?
Yeah, okay. So, I think you heard. I've got the black. Chuck us a black fleece. Please, can I? Am I on camera?